Hey everyone. Today's topic was suggested by one of you, and it's all about self-sabotaging in relationships. You asked why you may do this behavior and how to fix it. So that's what we're going to be discussing in this video, and I hope that you find what I share with you here helpful. So the first thing is, what causes self-sabotaging behavior? And there can be a myriad reasons why this happens, but I've boiled it down to two that are probably the most common, and they are trauma and insecurities. And when you really think about it, trauma creates insecurity, so it kind of all goes back to insecurities. These really are some of the main drivers of bad behavior, of specifically self-sabotaging behavior. Because if you're insecure about certain things, you're unknowingly going to act out based on those insecurities, and you could easily end up self-sabotaging something good. So I'll run through some examples of this to help you understand. Now, one of the biggest insecurities people can have are not believing they're good enough. And the problem with this one is, if you meet someone who is good, a good partner, someone who actually takes good care of you and is, a good partner, I could just sum it up that way, you'll likely believe you don't deserve them. And this is huge. If you believe you don't deserve someone, you are most likely going to self-sabotage that relationship, right? Because you subconsciously believe you aren't even worth them, right? That's going to cause you to act in ways that will likely push away that partner. You may make a lot of jokes that are, somewhat true, where you say like, why are you with me? You could do so much better than me, stuff like that. Or you'll see someone you believe is more attractive or a better match for them and be like, would you choose that person over me? Or it'll cause you to act in a way that can self-sabotage your relationship. In fact, my roommate has quite a bit of experience with this because he's a great guy, and he's had relationships with women who believed he was better than they were. They didn't believe they deserved him, and he was happy in those relationships. He actually really enjoyed being with those women. But since they didn't believe they deserved him, they sabotaged the relationship. One of them even straight up broke up with him, even though she loved the relationship she had with him. She probably even loved him, but she said, I don't deserve you. You can find someone so much better than me, so I feel like if I keep staying in this relationship, you're going to leave me at some point for someone better or cheat on me or whatever. So she basically convinced herself to leave because she didn't think she was good enough to be in a relationship with my roommate. So that's like a prime example of this kind of self-sabotaging behavior. If you don't believe you're good enough, you are going to do things to steer the relationship towards ending, because why wouldn't you, right? If you don't think that you're good enough for them, you're going to believe your partner will leave you at some point for someone better than you. So that's a very common insecurity. Another super common one is trust issues, right? And these have been talked about time and time again. In fact, there are plenty of songs about this, so there you go. It's a really common thing because, unfortunately, there are a lot of unevolved people out there who cheat. If someone hasn't worked on themselves, their likelihood of cheating skyrockets because they're just not going to be all that concerned with how their actions affect other people. They're likely going to be pursuing immediate pleasure over long-term fulfillment. And so basically, average people are way more likely to cheat than people who actually work on themselves. So there are a lot of people out there who have trust issues because a lot of people are average. And if you don't have high standards, you could easily end up in a relationship with someone who will do this to you. So trust issues, we all tend to know how that will impact someone's behavior, right? Like that also leads to self-sabotaging because you're going to be kind of needy and overprotective, or should I say overbearing, because trust issues likely play out where the person who has that insecurity is going to constantly be like a police officer towards their partner, where they're going to be constantly like interrogating them, especially if they do things without their partner around. They'll be like, what did you do last night? Did you see any women? Did you go dancing? Did any women hit on you? Oh, did you flirt with anyone? They'll be like really overbearing and needy because they want to make sure you didn't cheat on them, and they're always going to assume that you are close to cheating because they've been cheated on before. And this is a big one because if you find someone good, they are not going to tolerate this kind of behavior for long unless they have like the patience of a saint, which I don't know, many people would have that if they worked on themselves, because they're just going to think, why should I stick around if you haven't put in the work to, fix something so glaring? Like, trust issues are a huge problem to have. If you have trust issues, you need to work on that ASAP. Don't slide it under the rug, because it's going to sabotage great relationships if you meet someone who's good for you. So yeah, knowing that, let's jump into how can you work on sabotaging behavior, because there are more than just trust issues. Well, the main thing here, hopefully you'll already have an idea of what I'm about to say, because this is the best option bar none. Therapy, right? Therapy is huge. It's really important. And if you have like a stigma against it right now, I'll just tell you, stigmas against therapy are utter BS. Therapy is you wanting to better yourself. So why is that a bad thing? Like, I don't understand. Like, do we shame people for going to college to become more knowledgeable in a career field? No, right? So why do people shame others for going to therapy? That's like going to college for your mind. Well, yeah. So don't buy into the BS about therapy. It really is the best option. A professional can easily help you. Maybe not easily, but they can definitely help you with sabotaging behavior. Just make sure that you choose someone who's actually good. I don't know if there are great ways of vetting therapists, but usually I imagine they have rating systems and whatnot. You can find out who's good based on the reviews. And also, another piece of advice here, try to choose a therapist who's the same sex as you. I know that sounds kind of weird, but there's a reason for this. People who are the same sex usually will know some of the problems that we've been through, right? Because they're the same sex as them. Like, imagine if a guy goes to a female therapist to talk about like ED. She's not going to have a whole lot of idea of what that may be like, because she's not a guy herself. So she's not going to know some of the shame and other things that could associate having that. So that's just one kind of non-PC example to clarify the point here. But find a therapist who's the same sex as you. Just believe me on that one. That's a pro tip right there, if I could ever give you one in that regard. But other than that, if you can't afford therapy or can't get there for whatever reason, like seriously, that is the best choice. But if you can't, I have a few tips that you can try as well. And the first one is work on releasing the emotions you have attached to trauma. So what this entails is you basically want to sit in your emotions. You want to literally take time to almost meditate on the traumatic experience and why, or the emotions you have attached to it, and why you feel that way about it. You basically just want to kind of meditate on it to gain understanding. Like if you're trying to solve a problem where you're trying to see it from every different aspect, why this happened, why it caused that emotion, that sort of thing. You just want to analyze everything, because when we understand things, it kind of takes away some of the power of them. Like the unknown can really mess us up, and if you don't ever take time to process trauma, that unknown can trip you up. It can guide your behavior. But when you understand it, you understand why it made you feel the way that it did. Now you have the power of that understanding, and it can usually make it so you can release those emotions by processing them, so they'll move through you and be gone. But then another thing you can do is work on raising your self-esteem through self-love, because a lot of insecurities are tied to people just not having a high level of self-love. They don't like who they are. They can't accept themselves as they are. So it makes them way more likely to engage in those self-sabotaging behaviors. So practice self-love. What self-love pretty much is it's being kinder to yourself. It's supporting yourself. It's cheering for yourself. It's treating yourself the way that you treat people you deeply care about, like best friends or people you love. How do you treat them? Think about that for a moment, and then ask yourself, how can you treat yourself in those same ways? What can you do for yourself? How can you be kinder to yourself up here with your thoughts? That's like the biggest part of self-love, is changing the way you talk to yourself up here, because so many people are like their own worst enemies, and that's not even you. Like, if you're your own worst enemy, that's because society conditioned you to be that way. No baby comes into this world doubting itself and telling itself it can't learn how to walk. Like, they just try to do it time and time again. Even if they fail, they keep going until they finally nail it. Like, we learn to doubt ourselves. We learn to be our own worst enemies. I do not believe anyone is born with that being an inherent trait within them, because it makes no sense for our survival, right? Like, on a biological, evolutionary level, it makes no sense for us to be our own worst enemies. So that is learned behavior, in my opinion. So that means you can easily work on this, because it's not the real you. It's conditioned crap from society. So you can reject that voice that doubts you or tells you that you're not good enough, because it's not you. Kick that voice out of your head and instead replace it with supportive thoughts, cheering for yourself, being kinder to yourself, accepting yourself as you are, and even growing to a place where you can literally love yourself as you are, flaws and all. We're all flawed. I mean, I'm not perfect, right? But I love myself as I am. Like, I can fully accept myself as I am with every flaw that I know, because I know of almost all my flaws, and I can accept them, even though I know some of them are kind of big. But hey, whatever. We are all flawed. We're all human beings, and our flaws are what make us special in a way. They allow us to deeply connect with other people through vulnerability, through owning our flaws and our vulnerabilities. So yeah, just practice that self-love. Just be nicer to yourself up here. That's what you want to do. Just model the way you talk to yourself with your thoughts based on how you treat your best friends and people you truly, deeply care about. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you in this video for the most part. I mean, I hope this helped explain some of why people develop self-sabotaging behaviors, and then how you can work on correcting these behaviors. Like, I truly believe therapy is the best route to go, but if you can't go that route, I hope that the tips I shared in this video are helpful. So yeah, there you go. That's all about self-sabotaging in relationships. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe for more. Otherwise, throw a like and a comment on the video for the algorithm. That's truly the easiest way you can help me out, and I will see you guys in the next one. Arrivederci.